Hi, this is Becky with Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today we're going to make the frozen sugar castle, and we're making it out of our sugar. And this is the sugar recipe that I have on my channel that I will link down below, that I've used for lots of different pulled sugar things. I'm just going to put a couple drops of royal blue gel food coloring in. That's after I've taken it off the stove for about 5 minutes, so that this gel food coloring doesn't become all speckled, because we want it to incorporate into our sugar here. And so we're just going to stir that until all that gel food coloring is mixed into our sugar. Then you'll notice some silicone molds I have over here. I have those pink ones, are geode rock formations, and they come in different sizes. And I just got them in a pack from Amazon. I'll link that below. And then also the other silicone molds I have, these are actually for making pancakes, which I thought was so cool. So that means that these are also withstanding high temperatures too. And they're silicone. And so you'll want to coat these lightly in some vegetable oil, and that helps release it a lot easier. I didn't coat them in vegetable oil because a lot of times silicone will just come off, and you'll see I ran into a little bit of a snag, but we fixed it. But it would be even easier if you just coat them in vegetable oil. And so anyway, so these cool little pancake cutouts almost, they look like. But anyway, you're supposed to like place them in a pan and pour pancake stuff on them. I thought that was really cool. I got those two little shapes from Walmart. And I'll see if I can find a link for those, but I'm not sure if I can find them online, but I did get them at Walmart. So so anyway, so now that I have my sugar all mixed, I'm going to start pouring it. Now be super careful when pouring. This is super hot sugar. So yeah, there's my disclaimer. Now we're going to pour away. And we're going to fill up each of these molds, and then I'm also going to fill up the other two last. I like to tap the sides, kind of get out the air bubbles as much as possible, and then later we'll apply heat to get out any other air bubbles. And for the castle and the snowflake, I'm just gonna pour it enough that it's gonna make sure that it gets into each of the little details on there, but I'm not gonna make it super thick because I am gonna wanna stand this up, but just enough to cover all those little details. Then I'm gonna let them sit for a few hours until they're completely cooled and hardened. And while they're sitting, I am going to work out the rest of the sugar. Now normally I just pour my sugar out, but I waited too long, and so it was starting to get hard, but we can still work with it. So I'm just gonna scrape it out. But if yours is still pourable, just pour it on whatever surface you're working on, and then you can kind of fold it in on itself using the mat. Don't touch it with your gloves because it's still going to be super hot if you're pouring it. But since this isn't pourable, it's just warm, I can actually pull it back and forth with my hands. Now this is what we're using for the base. So my base is going to be a 6-inch circle because that's the size of the top tier of my cake. And so I'm going to make a 6-inch circle out of this. And I have my cake pan next to me so I can kind of measure it as I go. So that's the size that I want this to be. So I'm going to kind of pat it out on this surface and smooth it out so that I can get the right size. And once we get it to be the right size, then we're going to set it aside and let it completely cool and harden until it's a nice round surface for the base, and that's what we're going to build our castle on. As you can see, I'm using these silicone mats, and that helps the sugar not stick to things. So if you're wondering what kind of surface I was using, that's what it is. Now that these are completely cooled and hardened, I'm going to work them out slowly by just pulling it away from the sides first before trying to pull it out of there. And then you can just gently pop it out of there, and they come out rather easily. So out it comes, as long as you loosen the ends first. Now you see a little bubbles and stuff in there. I'll show you how to fix that. definitely work your castle and snowflake out. As you can see, I broke one of the towers. I'll show you how to fix that in a minute, but if you use a little bit of vegetable oil on the cutouts, the silicone cutouts, they'll come out a lot easier than they did for me. So that's the one step that I skipped that I shouldn't have. So next time, a little bit of vegetable oil for those. Now I'm using my blowtorch just to slightly heat each of my pieces to get those bubbles off. Now if you heat them too much, they'll start to lose their form. So you want to do a little bit just to get those bubbles off, but not too much because you don't want it to lose its form. Now we're going to glue all our pieces together using a little bit of heat. So if you heat the base lightly, you heat it too much though, and it'll start to lose its form too. So you want to heat everything just a little bit, and that way it acts as a glue, and you can lightly heat your next piece where you're going to stick it right on the base, and that'll make the sugar act as a glue. So you want to hold it until it dries. You can use a little fan and it'll dry quicker for you, but hold it till it's completely cool. And then I'm also going to use some of those smaller crystals to kind of help prop that big giant snowflake up. And so I'll put some of those crystals back there, and that kind of makes it a little more sturdy too. So extra protection for that. And then I'm just going to continue going around with the crystals and stuff and just heating them a little bit on the bottom and on the base and sticking them in around the outside of the circle. But before I put the rest of them, I want to place the castle part right in front so I can see what it'll look like with the castle up front, and then fill in those areas on the sides with more of the crystals. Okay, so just heat the base right there in front before we heat the bottom of the castle part, and then we'll stick that down right there. So there, they're both lightly heated, and I can just press it right where I want it to be on the base. And I'm just giving a little space in front of the castle because I'm going to be putting Anna and Elsa right there. So I'm just going to heat that. Now it's still not completely cooled yet, so you'll see my castle move a little bit. So that also, these are going to work as a support. You can see my gloves are kind of sticking to it because it's a little warm. So stick that one right there, and then we'll stick another one on this side of it, and then I'm going to fill in the rest of the spaces with the rest of those geode crystals. Then I'm going to take some diamond dust from the sugar art store and my food safe paintbrush, and I am going to dust the front of this castle so that you can really see these details a lot more. And also it brings that sparkle that gives you the snowy feel to it, makes it really seem like Elsa's castle. I liked adding this, and plus it's 100% edible, so if your kids are eating this like a lollipop later, mine had fun eating this. It was lots of fun at the party. They took it apart and each person had part of that castle. Was one of the highlights of the cake. So here's what it looks like. I like to show you in front of the window so you can see how it's all see-through. But also I added lights to mine. Now there was a plus and a minus to adding the lights. The lights were cool, but because I had yellow balloon lights, it made the castle look a little greenish. So I would recommend using actually a white balloon light. You can actually get white balloon lights too, but I opted to at least use the yellow ones because it was still cool putting lights inside. So I'm just gonna set them in there, and it makes it look like a light up castle. Anna and Elsa will go on the outside, and this will all go on top of the cake. Just make sure you put cake supports in, just like if you were putting another tier on your cake. I usually use bubble tea straws to add the supports. But if you don't know how to add supports, just check out how to stack a cake, and I go through how to add supports and stuff in my stack a cake tutorial. But there is our lovely sugar castle, and thank you so much for joining me today, and please subscribe to my channel.